Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of the Hilo Stitch podcast. I am your host, Kristen of Media Peruana Designs, and I'm here to talk to you about what else? Knitting. I will also be talking about pattern design, other fiber arts related events or goings on, and there's always a good chance that at some point I am going to mention Diego Luna, especially today since I'm wearing my Diego cardigan. So thank you so much for joining me. A very special thank you to my Patreon patrons who help keep the podcast going. And a special welcome for any new viewers who are checking out the podcast for the first time. So if you don't know me already, I'm Kristen Janik. I'm a pattern designer and a mom to two mischievous little boys and wife to a very tall man from Peru. We live in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C. And I also enjoy yoga, baseball, wine, and obviously knitting. So let's start talking about it. So we'll see how this podcast is going to go today. I'm doing things a little differently in that Ollie is at home. He's right in the other room, and you're probably going to hear him coughing, unfortunately. But this is just my very last chance to actually record a podcast in the month of October and get it, uploaded in the month of October. The month has completely gotten away from me. It has been, I think, more of a whirlwind than usual. I'm sorry, you can hear him coughing. October is always busy for us because we have my birthday and our wedding anniversary and on Halloween and this special dinner that we do in honor of my mom with the whole family every year. So, and in addition to that, this year, my mother-in-law was here for a visit. So that, I don't want to say that was a wasted, time. The kids love having her around, and obviously it's important for them to get to visit with their grandmother, but it's just days where I can't just do the things that I want to do. We have to sort of plan around having a house guest. And in addition, my mother-in-law was here for 9 days. My husband's, or one of my husband's cousins from Argentina came to visit. He's apparently doing some kind of whirlwind tour of the United States. He's from Ushuaia, which is the southernmost city. I don't know if it's in the world, but it's definitely in the Western Hemisphere. And he decided he was going to come visit at the same time as my mother-in-law. So he was here, let me think. My mother-in-law arrived on a Saturday. I can't remember if he arrived on a Saturday or a Sunday. He left on Wednesday. Then Friday, my brother-in-law showed up. He is in Boston for graduate school at MIT. He decided he was going to visit while his mom was here. So he arrived on Friday. My mother-in-law left on Sunday, and then finally on Monday night, my brother-in-law left and we had the house back to ourselves. And I was sick for a good portion of that, as were the kids, mostly Ollie. He always gets sick. So that was sort of about 10 days, just kind of subtracted from my month. And then, we had my birthday, and then Rhinebeck, which I'll talk about, a little bit later. And then we had this, every year we do a sour beef dinner. My mom used to make sour beef once or twice a year for her family before she passed. So now we've been doing it, in her honor every fall. And also sort of as a time to remember others in our family who have passed away. So that was this past weekend. And I don't actually eat beef, but you know, it's a good time to see family. And of course I help with cooking the things that are not beef. And so all my weekends just kind of evaporated, and now it is October 30th and tomorrow's Halloween, and then that's it. October is over, my favorite month of the year. It's pretty much gone, which is kind of a bummer. November is my third favorite month of the year, so, you know, we have plenty to look forward to. My mother-in-law is coming to visit again. And my sister-in-law and her husband and 2 kids, and my brother-in-law and his girlfriend, and my mother-in-law is bringing one of our nephews from Chile, all here for Thanksgiving. So November will not be quite as busy, but certainly that later part of November will be keeping me busy as well. So that is just a little bit about what has been going on for me in this very, very busy month of October. And with that said, let's start talking about some actual knitting. All right, I actually have a few things to talk about this month for on and off the needles, mostly on, but I did finish one thing. It is Socktober. I was hoping to finish up a lot of my sock whips. I only finished one, but it is done. I do have 2 of these, but I'm just showing you the one. So this is a self-striping sock yarn from Nomadic Yarns. The colorway is called Molly Weasley. You can see pinks and oranges and greens. This is just a plain toe-up sock. It came out a little big. I knew that the first sock was a little big in the foot, but I didn't feel like ripping it back. And then I just knit the second sock to match it. This is the trouble I have with toe-up socks. I prefer to knit toe-up because then I can make my socks as tall as they can be until I run out of yarn, but I just find it really tricky to get the foot length quite right. So they're a little bit too long. It's, you know, it's not the end of the world. I can still wear them. But it seems like every time I knit socks, I'm still trying to perfect that foot length. You know, you are supposed to knit socks to a negative ease because you don't want them to be all floppy around on your foot, and they are going to start stretching out over time as well. But I never seem to get it quite right. So just a plain toe-up sock with a slip stitch heel. There we go. I have been wearing them a little bit already. I love Nomadic Yarns. She has all these self-striping yarns, lots of Harry Potter colorways. So I am happy to have one whole new pair of socks for the fall. I've got about 36 hours left in Socktober, so there's a chance I could maybe finish one more pair. I do have 2 pair of sock whips where I'm on the second sock. So it's conceivable. Tonight is Game 7 of the World Series. I'll definitely be watching that. But it's also Wine Wednesday, so, you know, that's not always a good combination. But something off the needles, one pair of socks. But I do have some things on the needles. So the first thing I'm going to show you is what's sitting in my lap when I'm knitting. This is a test knit for Karina Spencer. I've never test knit anything before. Obviously, I have test knits for my own designs, and I thought when I saw, you know, first I saw the picture of what she had designed, and it was gorgeous. And then when I saw that she was looking for testers, I was like, this would be a really good opportunity for me to, 1, force myself to finish a selfish knit actually for the fall, and 2, to see the test knitting process sort of from the other side. You know, see, 1, how other designers are running their tests, and it's already given me some ideas for how I might want to make changes. And also just kind of see what are the things that I find as I'm knitting through her pattern that maybe I'm going to remember to ask, you know, my test knitters to look at, or, you know, what kind of feedback she's asking for that, you know, maybe I should be more aware of as I'm running my test knits. So, of course, I haven't made it very far. This is the lace hem tee, and I'll try to go ahead and pop a picture in here so you can see what the finished thing is supposed to look like. And so this is how far I've gotten. I am using, the actual yarn called for in the pattern is this neutral, this is sort of an off-white, gray, very pale brown, the actual yarn here. So this is Manos del Uruguay Fino, which is merino silk, single ply, and you can see sort of got browns and grays and just a really nice neutral. And then the contrast color is leftover yarn from my Caluroso slipper socks, which is Woolberry Fiber Company Berry Sock. The colorway is something like Caramel Latte. I'll double check. I think that's it. And so you can see the contrast color, pull back a little bit, has browns, mostly light brown, but little pops of dark brown and even a little bit of, you can see some of the little reds in there. So I have gotten through, I guess, what is the trickiest part. I've got the lace hem of the lace hem tee. And so now I'm just on the main body, which is just plain stockinette up to the armholes. And it is a cropped kind of sweater. So I really don't have that much more knitting to do, but of course this is a very light, I guess it's a fingering weight yarn. So it'll take a little while. I think I only have to knit for about 4 inches, which doesn't sound like much, but you know, this lace is gonna stretch out a lot. The deadline for the test knit is November 11th, so of course I'm falling behind. But this is the major thing that I'm going to be working on. I have one of my own design things that I'm just going to be finishing up over the next couple of days, and then I can completely focus on this. I'm going to be knitting the version with the extra long sleeves with the thumb holes. You know, when I was younger, in my teenage years, I was always, you know, pulling my hands up into my sleeves, and at some point I just started cutting holes in the bottom of the sleeve so my thumbs could stick out. So I really love that style. So I am hopefully going to be finishing this up on time. And then next month I should have the finished sweater to show you guys. So that is thing 1 on the needles that is new. And then the other thing is on the way home from Rhinebeck, I decided to, because I just don't have enough sock whips, I decided to use my precious, precious skein of Air Glow. And this is from, I don't know how to get it to focus more on the yarn. This is from Fiber for the People that I snagged a couple months ago in an update. So I decided to cast on a new pair of socks. Really like how this is knitting up so far. I know the lighting's not great today because there's no sun. But you can see just this gorgeous sort of a sapphire, maybe more of a tealy navy blue with these pops of pink and other colors running through it. Almost kind of striping at this point. These are going to be a pair of Vanilla is the New Black socks. Those are pretty much plain right up until the heel. So I just cast them on in the car, and I'm knitting, you know, sort of a regular plain leg. And when it's time for the heel, then I'll consult the pattern and get the heel done. I have a pair of Vanilla is the New Black socks, and I really like them. But even though I don't dry my socks in the dryer, I do wash them usually on a delicate cycle in the washing machine, and I have a front loader, but they still seem to have gotten a little felted. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. So I just want a new pair. They were also a merino cashmere nylon, so they're just very pilly. And I also, since it's here, I'm going to take time to show you my adorable little project bag. This is from Little Skein in the Big Wool. You may recall she was supposed to be at India Untangled, and then because of the situation with Denise Bayron, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Little Skein Annie decided she would not be vending, but she did do a sort of Indian Tangled / Rhinebeck collection that was available on her website. And so I got this adorable kind of Rhinebeck project bag. Look at this. Little fall trees, a sheep wearing a scarf, apple cider donuts, and all these fall leaves and acorns. I love this. It's so nice and sturdy. So it has nice sturdy handles. It is lined with this fall themed fabric as well. This is perfect for socks. And it makes me so happy to look at it. So this is the cutest thing. I don't know if she still has these in her shop, but I will certainly link to it in the show notes so you can come take a look. Look, there's a little sheep butt. I know she had another print, and I was really torn between which print to get, because the other one was also Rhinebeck themed, but it had the llamas, because they have the llama parade, and it had a nun, because I guess there's a nun that cares for llamas and is in the parade. I don't know, but it was the cutest thing. But ultimately I settled on this one. So I will include a link to that in the show notes so you can check it out and see if you want to get your own. I still haven't finished my weekend. I have like half a sleeve left. It's really ridiculous. It's just I have so much else going on, and obviously in the fall I always have startitis. It's going to be wrapping up soon because I only have one more design that I need to knit before the end of the year. So I'm going to be having, I think, more time for some selfish knitting in November and December. Maybe, because I got to get started for 2020. But I am going to get that weekender finished, I swear, by the next episode. We'll see. Events, obviously, I went to Rhinebeck, and before I tell you about it, I am just going to pop a quick little clip in here that I'm going to call Rhinebeck in 1 minute. All right, so that was Rhinebeck. We arrived on Friday, and we had rented a little, the kids call it a cabin, and the listing called it a farmhouse. It was in the forest, so it was obviously not a farmhouse, but just a cute little place on Airbnb, up in the mountains in a town called Willow. It was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the house itself was nothing spectacular, very cute, you know, redone, but just the area around it was absolutely beautiful. It did not have a TV, which I knew going into it. It did have Wi-Fi, so we still, you know, we had iPads for the kids. It did not have a microwave, which is not something I really thought to look for until we had like a bunch of leftovers from going to restaurants, and we had no easy way to reheat them. So that was certainly not the end of the world, but slightly annoying. I'm used to my modern conveniences, I guess. So we arrived Friday. I had tickets to India Untangled, and this year you had to purchase your ticket for a particular shopping time slot. I bought the tickets for the last time slot, which was 4 to 6 p.m. So obviously those tickets were the cheapest. That is not why I bought them. I bought them because I knew check-in at the cabin was at 3, so there was no way that we could get there any earlier, and it's 5.5 hour drive plus stops for us. So those tickets are the cheapest because a lot of, people have been shopping all day and things are kind of picked over. And because of traffic and getting, settled in to our Airbnb, etc., I did not actually get to India Untangled until 5 o'clock. So I had 1 hour. Not that I needed any yarn, but it was kind of a whirlwind. I did get to do some shopping. I got to say hi to some people. I got to see Christine from Skinny Dipping Yarn and Sandra from Duck Duck Wool and Julie. Julie, I still don't know how to pronounce her last name, from the Nurtured Yarn, from my Diego cardigan. I got to say hi to her. I really liked the space that they had. I did not go to Indie Untangled in 2018 because we didn't go to Rhinebeck. I stayed home for my high school reunion. So I hadn't been since 2017 when it was in the hotel. So this space was just much bigger and airier. And of course, I had the last shopping slot, so I'm sure that helped with the crowding issue. But I definitely like the space better. I don't, in theory, have an issue with the idea of giving everybody a 2-hour shopping period, but closing things up at 6 o'clock for people who are traveling on Friday, that's really tricky. So that was kind of a bummer. Saturday, I went to the fairgrounds with my family, which means I really didn't do any shopping on Saturday. The only thing I got on Saturday was a mug from Jenny the Potter, which I forgot to bring up here. I finally got my hands on a mug. I was very surprised to still see one. Saturday, the weather was absolutely beautiful. Just sunshine and perfect sweater weather temperature. At least most of the day. Well, kind of by the early afternoon, it certainly wasn't hot. It was maybe a little warm for a worsted weight sweater, but I survived. So Saturday was mostly about looking at the animals. They have every year this sort of portable zoo that they have at the fairgrounds. Does it have lemurs and kangaroo and goats? Because as if there's not enough goats there, but they have the baby petting goats and a little pig and a bunny. So the kids, of course, loved that. Tried to take photos with the children. I put each kid in sweaters that I've designed so they could be my little walking advertisements. And we pet all the sheep. And we stayed until, I guess, the early afternoon. I got to say hi to a few people at sort of the meetup. There were some people I was hoping to, because I did get to say hi to Christine at India Untangled, but it was just briefly. I was hoping to run into her at the fairgrounds, but we missed each other. I did get to say hi to a couple of people who had knit my designs. And so if you're watching the podcast, thank you for saying hi. Really appreciate that. And I talked to Kat from Salvage Knits for a few minutes, and then the kids were really getting restless. So we headed back home. Sunday, I went to the fairgrounds by myself in the morning, and so this was my major shopping time, and I did get to do a little bit of shopping. And I got to say hi to Sarah / PA Knitwit, and I got my apple cider donut. It's plural. I did get 2. They were delicious, but I stood in line for a good hour for those donuts. I saw the llama parade. Sunday's a lot more chill. I talked to Heather and Kathy from the Knot House. Of course, they're, right up the road. But it was fun to hear about their trip. Heather was vending at the new Friday event, Yarn Bazaar, that was organized by Christy Glass. Obviously, since I was late to India Untangled, I definitely couldn't go to that. I just was at the fairgrounds for a few hours, and around 12:30, 1 o'clock, I headed out. My husband thought he had found a good train museum to take the kids to on Sunday afternoon. At that point, it had started to rain. So we grabbed some lunch and went to this train museum, which was really disappointing. It had a couple of model trains in a case that were not moving. They were stationary, and that was it. They did have some old, I guess it's in an old train station. So they had some old trains outside, some like one engine and a few cars, but you couldn't get on any of them. So that was kind of disappointing for the kids. But I suppose it was, if it hadn't been raining, I think we would have maybe, we were right near a lake up in the Catskills that I think would have provided a great place for a nice walk and photos, but unfortunately it was pouring rain. So after the train museum, we headed home just to relax. We were planning to do s'mores because they had an outdoor fire pit, but it was raining, so we just did s'mores inside, which there's a reason people do s'mores outside. And then Monday morning we headed home. So it was a fun weekend. It was nice to see so many people. It was nice to see so many knitters enjoying their hand knits. I definitely bought way too much yarn. So let's hop over to Stash Flash and start showing that off. Okay, let's talk about all the yarn that I bought at India Untangled in Rhinebeck, because there is a lot of it. It is almost full, and I didn't need any of it. Okay, first, if you went to India Untangled, you know there were some pre-orders of some exclusive stuff. So I did pre-order these two skeins. This is more, that's my own hair. This is more Nurtured yarn from Julie, however you pronounce that. And this is the exclusive color that she did for India Untangled. This is, Leaf Pile. So again, my lighting isn't great today, but this is sort of a pale purple with some browns and grays. I don't know that I would call it leaf pile, but it's a really beautiful color. And I do have plans for this to do sort of a companion accessory for Diego. So my companion accessory should not use both of these skeins. You might look forward to maybe a giveaway of one of these when that pattern releases. We will see. So those are absolutely gorgeous. What's next? All right, I got 4 skeins of this for actually a sweater for JJ. Whether or not I actually design that sweater or take the bold step of using someone else's pattern, we will see. So this, I got 4 of these from Green Mountain Spinnery. And this is, let's see, called Music. Let's see if you can see there. So you can see how it's spelled. Sorry, this is DK weight, 100% fine American wool. So this actually has a similar texture to the Nurtured. This is a DK weight. The colorway is called Brick House. So you can see this is just kind of a heathered red, which is a great color for JJ, and he might get a sweater by the time he turns 10 at the rate I'm going. Let's see. That actually is not from India Untangled. So another thing that I got when I got the cute little bag from Little Skein in the Big Wool is she had an exclusive, what would have been an India Untangled colorway. This is called Autumn Light, and this is on her Merino DK base. So it's mostly purple with some like browns and grays blended in there. I guess it's, you know, sort of reminiscent of this one, but obviously much brighter. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I never do. But I had noticed in my stash, I don't have a lot. When I was looking for yarn for the framework bralette that I definitely do want to knit, I realized I didn't have a lot of single, I didn't have hardly any DK. I didn't have hardly any, wow. I hardly had any DK weight yarn, and what I did have was all sweater quantities that I didn't want to break up. I didn't have a lot of single skeins. Now, maybe there's not a lot of uses for single skeins of DK weight yarn. Maybe that's why I didn't have any, but I thought I should, you know, get a few. If Jessie May is going to keep releasing these cute bralette patterns, I'm going to need something to knit them with, since I was thinking ahead. I got these two skeins from the Farmer's Daughters. I always add too many S's. The Farmer's Daughter Fibers. So these are both her Craigie Tweed, and they're just sort of a light and a dark pink, sort of a rosy pink color. Obviously they're both tweed. I'm expecting to maybe do something that combines them. I don't know what it will be. This is a DK weight yarn, and the total I've got here is about 460 yards. Could be anything, I don't know. Could be a design, could be somebody else's pattern, we shall see. But I really love this kind of like dusty rose gold combo. What else? I gotta get yarns in here that are not from Rhinebeck, and I will show them to you, but I'm gonna finish the Rhinebeck yarn first. So this is also from Green Mountain Spinnery. This is a wool alpaca blend, I want to say. Yeah, this is a DK weight alpaca and fine wool that's coming apart. Get back in there. And you can see this is sort of a dark, a little bit heathery, mossy green. I just got this, thought it could be a hat. How many yards is this? 180 yards, so at least one hat, maybe two, if my kids' heads are small enough for the kids for the winter. Because they are starting to outgrow a lot of the accessory knits that I had done for them in the past. Now I said I wasn't gonna buy any sock yarn. I bought one sock yarn because I had to have something from Lola Bean. And as I said, when I got to Untitled, it was the last hour. Everything was quite picked over. So that's not to say that this isn't beautiful. I love this skein. This is called Rubious Hagrid. Love all these browns and grays and pinks, and love it. But pretty much all she had left was sock yarn, which is kind of surprising. But maybe she just brought a lot of sock yarn knowing that people would want that the most. So I could not leave without a skein of Lola Bean. This is Bean Sprout, which is an 80/20 merino nylon. Absolutely adorable. Gonna make really cute socks, you know, someday. And then let's see, I also picked these up at Indie Untangled. This is from La Bien Amy. Amy? So do you still pronounce it the same way in French? I don't know. I assume so. But this is a DK weight yarn, and this colorway is called Grillo. I love this because it's not just gray and yellow. It's got like these browns and speckles, a little bit of orange. Absolutely gorgeous. It is, let's see, about 500 yards total. So I don't know exactly what it's gonna be, but something beautiful someday. And then, okay, the last thing I have from Rhinebeck are these two skeins of Plied Yarn Company. So you may have heard about this. I believe Plied is a collaboration between Ann Weaver and Carita Collins of Neighborhood Fiber Company. As you probably know, Neighborhood Fiber Company is based in Baltimore, so obviously I love them. And when I saw this is sort of a hand spun kind of looking yarn, looks a little bit like Spin Cycle. I definitely had to get some support, fellow Baltimore artists. So this one is called Cotties, and this one is called Poe, obviously. Purples, grays, blacks. I have no idea what they're gonna be. They don't go together, so they will not be something together, but we shall see. But I really wanted to try these out. It's always important for me, of course, to support other artists from Baltimore and in and around Baltimore, so I was really happy to pick these up. So that is all of the yarn that I have purchased, I think, in the month of October. All right, so when I talk about grabbing your Visa card and getting shopping, I usually try to show one knitting thing and one non-knitting thing. Sorry about the coughing. So we're gonna start with the non-knitting thing. For a while, I had a subscription to Birchbox, which gives you beauty samples every month. And I found a lot of really good products, you know, some misses. My major problem with it was that I was just getting samples for things I really just couldn't afford. And so then it was kind of like, oh, I love this product, but I cannot spend, you know, XYZ amount of money on a beauty blender. Like, I don't have that kind of money. But the samples really came in handy for kind of traveling when I don't want to bring a lot of my regular products. So I threw this one in my makeup bag before Rhinebeck. Come on, you can focus on the... Don't look at my face. So this is a BB cream from Marcel. A BB cream is beauty balm, and it's supposed to do a whole host of things. I like them because I rarely have the patience to, you know, put on a whole face of makeup. But I'm also not, you know, 22 anymore, so there are definitely some things that could use, you know, evening out. So in the past, I've used BB creams from Clinique, and they've been fine. I had just grabbed this one to toss in my bag, and I love it. Of course, it costs $30, which is not obscene. I've definitely, you know, seen plenty of face creams that cost more than that, but it's definitely outside of the price range I would usually consider for a BB cream, but I absolutely love it. It only comes in one color, which is Golden Glow, so it's sort of a universal, well, universal for white people color. It's on my face now. So it really just sort of evens out my skin tone. You know, it's not hiding, you know, all of my, you know, wrinkles and bags under my eyes and everything. It's not a full, you know, full coverage foundation, but it really evens out the skin tone, brightens up my skin, just makes things look smoother, more even. So I basically used this all Rhinebeck weekend, and I was really happy with it. So if $30 is within your price range, then I definitely recommend it, or maybe put it on your Christmas list. The holidays are coming up. But this will definitely be on my wish list for the holidays. I've been very happy with it. Great, you know, when you don't need or don't have time for a full face of makeup, just to put it on and give you a little glow, and even things out, make you look a little bit more awake. I've been really happy with this. So this is the BB cream from Marcel You can definitely buy this online directly from their website, and I think probably at, you know, other websites that sell beauty products. I don't know specifically, but maybe check Ulta and Sephora, or is it Sephora, whatever. I clearly don't know, but I will include a link in the show notes to that. And then the knitting thing is that when I was at India Untangled, I picked up the cutest earrings. These were my birthday gift to myself. Let me get them all straightened out here. These are my birthday gift to myself. These are from Birdie Parker Designs. She had matching sets, but I decided to get a set that was obviously one, stop looking at my face, focus on this thing, one stockinette and one garter stitch. Focus, it's really irritating. She had these in, this is, I don't know what it was called, copper or bronze. I mean, it's obviously not either of those things actually. So I don't know what the actual metal is, that's just the color. She also had them in sterling silver. I usually go for silver. They were just a little bit outside my price range. Come on. I just love these. So adorable. So nice to have, you know, sort of a knitting thing with you. They don't hurt my ears. They're not super heavy. So I didn't have any problems with them. I wore them all Rhinebeck weekend. She had all different shapes, and, you know, she didn't just have earrings, she had other stuff as well. I just think they're so sweet for, you know, if you just want to have a little hint of your knitting, but maybe, you know, wearing hand knit earrings isn't quite what you were going for. So these are my new favorite thing, my new favorite accessory. Focus in. Stupid, useless camera. I should get a real camera for doing the podcast instead of my phone. So I will include a link to the show notes. You can definitely find her on Instagram. Her name again is Birdie Parker Designs. She has all of this adorable knitting themed jewelry. It's a nice treat for yourself. Or again, the holidays are coming up. Put it on your wish list. So for me and my bright ideas this month, we're going to talk about what a great idea it is to decide to design a sweater with elements that you've never even knit before, let alone designed. So the concept for cellophane flowers evolved a few times and eventually became this open front cardigan with an attached front bands that turn into a big shawl collar. And so obviously if you're going to knit vertically, then when you get to the shawl collar, if you want to be, you know, have it knit attached, you're going to have it go around the back of the neck and then seamed at the back. And that didn't really seem too difficult. But sort of the geometry and shaping of it didn't really occur to me. So originally, I knit the collar up to, you know, a certain point, then separated it, and then increased it a little bit to make it an extra wide at the back, and then just, you know, sewed it together at the back. And then after I tried it on, I realized that that's not how geometry works. If you have something that needs to, you know, come around and join at the back, the top edge has to be longer than the bottom edge because of the difference in their height. So the top edge has to curve around a longer space than the bottom edge does. I realized this Saturday night at Rhinebeck at around 5 o'clock, and I was planning to wear it the next day. I could have just let it go at that. I could have said, all right, I won't wear this sweater tomorrow. But I didn't. I decided it needed to be fixed. So I knew, you know, in theory how to fix it. In order to make the top edge longer than the bottom edge, you have to add short rows so that you have more rows up here than you do down here. Okay, so you're down, I've got a big string in the way. So down here, you don't need as many rows because you're not covering as much space as you are up here. So in theory, you're gonna work short rows so that you gradually add rows as you approach the top edge, and that's going to add length. At this point, I had already sewed the base of the collar into the sweater neckline, and I really didn't want to have to rip it all the way out. So being the very stubborn person that I am, I undid the Kitchener stitch from the where the two sides of the collar joined. I ripped it back until here, which is about 1.5 inches above where it's sewn into the neckline. And then I started working the short row. So ultimately it's fine. You know, I've got it worked out in the pattern. I figured out the math so that, yes, you know, this collar is longer on the top edge than at the bottom, and it sits, you can see, sits very neatly right there, wrapped around. So ultimately it was fine, but I was in such a rush that, again, I only ripped out, you know, part of the collar, did the short rows, then I didn't really feel like Kitchenering again, so I just did a 3-needle bind off, but I did a lousy job of it. Maybe someday I'll fix it. It looks fine, you know, with the collar folded over. You can't see where I sort of detached it midway down the seam, started doing the short rows, probably dropped a stitch, who knows. But that is me and my bright ideas this month. You should maybe at least knit something once before you decide to try to design it on a whim. Thank you all so much for joining me for episode 10 of the Hilo and Stitch podcast. You can find links to everything that I've talked about in the show notes at mediaperuana.com/Hilo and Stitch. Special thank you to my Patreon patrons for supporting the podcast. If you are interested in supporting the podcast and would like more information about the perks that come with being one of my Patreon patrons, like bonus episodes of the podcast, free patterns, and other goodies, you can find all of that information at patreon.com/mediaperuana. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and Facebook as Media Peruana. And you can find all past and future episodes of the Hilo and Stitch podcast on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to help increase the reach of the podcast. You can also find the podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, or your favorite podcatcher app. Thank you again for joining me, and I'll see you next time.